Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I am Connor Williams, and we are here with an opposition preview. I'm joined by Billy Grant from Beesotted Brentford podcast. Firstly, how are you, Billy?
I'm good, Connor. How are you doing? Thanks for inviting me on your show. Thank you, Everton fans, for having us here. And as a Brentford fan, I'm very excited that Everton are coming down to our new stadium, coming down to any stadium actually down in Brentford, to actually play us, because it's a bit of an honour. You know, playing Everton, I've only ever played you once in my whole lifetime, and that was in the League Cup. We might talk about that a little bit later, about 10 years ago. But other than that, never played Everton. So it's actually quite exciting for us, for you to actually be coming down and, like I said to you, gracing the pitch and having your fans drinking in our pubs locally. So hopefully you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Obviously, you've mentioned the gap that we haven't played you. This is the first time Brentford have been in the top flight for 74 years and their first time in the Premier League. So tell me a little bit about what you've made of your season so far.
It's been a bit of a weird season because we had no idea what was going on. You know what I'm saying? We got promoted and we thought, listen, let's just come up and let's just enjoy it. You've got to understand, and I'm saying this, you might not understand, you know, well, you probably do understand because there's a lot of football fans out there. I mean, I've been supporting my team for 40 odd years and I've seen them play at places which I've loved going to, like Accrington, and Preston and Borough and Wrexham and all these places, which I've seen the team play, and I've really enjoyed going to all these places. Watching Brentford play in the Premier League was a little bit of a kind of sort of pipe dream. You never think it's really going to happen, what I'm saying. And even when we got up to the Championship, and everyone was always writing us off saying there's no chance Brentford are going to get the Premier League, and you sort of kind of, you're not putting your team down, but it's quite hard to get there. So the fact that when we got there, we're just like, wow, this is like mad. Let's just enjoy it, because we've seen how Fulham done. Fulham, I know they're local rivals, but also they were terrible. They lost every single game. West Brom lost a lot of games, and so we realised it's a tough league, this league. So we just thought, listen, instead of us coming up here and expecting to do this, expect to do that, let's just enjoy it. So when we had that first game and we beat Arsenal, it was on another level, because you've got to remember, new stadium for us. So we left our old stadium without even saying goodbye to her. We've got into a new stadium, which, to be honest with you, we didn't have any idea what the atmosphere is going to be like. It's a new stadium. Are a little bit kind of funny with fans who are used to old school stadium, as you will know. You've got your old school stadium now. You're going to move into a new stadium. Is it going to be the same sort of atmosphere as the old stadium? So we had all these fears, and then all of a sudden we're playing Arsenal on our own patch. And we thought this could be disastrous. First game of the season, we beat them, and honestly, it was the best night ever. And after that, we could have lost every single game, and I wouldn't have really cared. But since then, after that, we did really well. And the reason why, and I'll say this because it impacts on now. Defensively, we were really tight. Thomas Frank, very clever manager, and we made sure that we got a tight defence. We got this guy Aya in from Celtic, who's like a Rolls-Royce defender, who was kind of leading our defence with Pontus Janssen and Ethan Pinnock as well. We were playing two wing backs, and honestly, we were on the money defensively. So we were keeping it tight, hitting people on the break, but also we were attacking as well. So, we managed to come off of the draw at Palace. We came with a draw up at Aston Villa, which we probably should have won, actually. But, I think we had a lesson there, took our eye off the ball, and Bundia scored a fantastic goal. Beat Wolves away, which was fantastic. Beat West Ham away, which was fantastic. Lost to Brighton. But when we lost to Brighton, we took our eye off the ball. We should have been 3-0 up. We didn't take our chances. They scored with their only kick of the game in the 90th minute and beat us. And we thought, tell you what, we're not doing too bad in this Premier League, but we got injuries. And then the injuries came in, especially our keeper, Raya, who is fundamental to the way that we play. He's a brilliant goalkeeper, and he's like a midfielder. Gets the ball, nutmegs a striker, puts the ball around and plays a 30-yard pass, ball back of the net. And since he's been gone, we've been, and I would say this, defensively all over the place. We were top three probably defensively before he got injured, and now I'd say that we're kind of probably bottom six defensively at the moment. Now we are really struggling to pull it together. So it's been a good start, and I'm really pleased that we got the points on the table when we did, but it's going to be a rough couple of months for us, I reckon, until the January window.
Well, obviously you've mentioned, you've slightly mentioned, the journey or the places you've travelled with Brentford. Just tell us what it's like to be from following Brentford from, playing the likes of Accrington, like you said, to all the way now in the Premier League and with the new owner, Matthew Benno. It's been quite a journey. So just tell us what it's like to be following the club through this journey.
tell you something, it's good, and especially looking back on it, because I'd never take any of those days away. I love going to those places, and I went up to Newcastle last week. It's up in the Far East. You know, I took my whole family up there, as you do, like, you know. But I love going to the Far East, and before that, Middlesbrough was my favourite away day. Middlesbrough and Preston, like my two favourite away days, and everyone's getting really confused. Going, you know, don't you love Leeds? Don't you go? And it's like, no, you know, these places are the places that are kind of like, you know, that have made us. We beat the game. I mean, our first game I went to Borough, we got smashed 4-0, and I had one of the best away days ever. Like, you know, it was one of our first away days in the Championship, and because we're Brentford fans, and I'm trying not to put us down, but we you support your local team. I was born a mile down the road, so I support the local team. I could have supported Chelsea or Arsenal or West Ham, but no, that's not what you do. You support your local team. There's 13 clubs in London, plus a load of non-league clubs, I think, at the time. But you end up supporting the team, which was probably, well, it wasn't probably, it was at the time, the lowest placed team in the whole of London, but you didn't care. And you went there because you knew everybody knows you, you know, you go to football to have a laugh. So in the end, it's not about the game actually spoiled it. You know, we got a phrase, kick football out of football, you know, and the football actually really just spoiled the day out, you know. So our day out was all about what you did on the way to the game. If it was at home, in the pub beforehand, if it's an away game on the train, meeting away fans, just having laughs away from home, and after the game as well on the way back. You know, you go all the way to Wrexham and spend 5 hours to go to Wrexham, then you end up losing 3-0, and then you come back again. But you think, oh, that's a great day out, because that's just what we did as Brentford fans. That's all we knew. It's very different now, because all of a sudden the football has changed a bit, and we've decided that we have to sort of keep football in football, you know, which is quite unusual for us, actually. So we've seen some great games of football. So the journey has been fabulous, and I could hark back to, you know, brilliant days out we've had in Birmingham City, you know, when we've beaten them and their place, and, you know, and I'll never take any of them away. But obviously it's a new journey for us now, and going to Everton, which we're going to do in July or June. No, it's in May. We're going to go to Everton, last away game of the season. Already marked it down. Already got the hotels booked, because I've never been to Everton. It's one of the probably 3 grounds I've never been to in the whole of the country. So I'm looking forward to it. And this Premier League at least has given us an opportunity to go and see new grounds, meet new people, see some new football, hopefully show people that we're, you know, that we're a half decent side, you know, barring our slightly dodgy defence at the moment now, but hopefully we'll fix that. And fingers crossed we can do enough to stay in this division, and then you'll see us again next season. So no, it's been good. I'm enjoying it.
Good. It's good to hear. It's been an incredible story to watch as well, especially with, you know, missing out on the playoffs. Like, I think it was the season before you won them and stuff like that. It's been amazing as a neutral to be watching your growth as a club. Tell us a little bit about what you've made of Everton's season so far.
Everton, well, again, if you catch you rightly, I remember at the beginning of the season, I think you had a pretty good start at the start of the season. I think I don't know if it's about 4 or 5 matches again. I haven't got my figures in front of me, but all I remember is I was thinking, oh, Everton, they're looking all right. But then you seem to have slowed off, probably like the last 4 or 5 matches, where things have seemed to sort of kind of, you know, not been going completely to plan. I haven't looked into it as to the reasons why. Like I said to you, as I said, there's normally reasons as to why things do happen. I mean, a lot of people we're expecting the wheels to come off from day one from Brentford. And even after we beat Arsenal, they're almost waiting for that moment for the skids to come off, like, you know. But then if you actually get to speak to Brentford fans, and they tell you, yes, we've had these really terrible injuries. We've got 10 first-team players that are out. You know, it starts to make a little bit how our goalkeeper makes sense. And the same thing with Everton. I think you've been at quite a few games where you're struggling to get a win, but there may be good reasons behind it. I know that there's a couple of players who are also going to be out for the Brentford match as well. And the fact is that, you know, if your team's, you know, like us, I mean, like Everton as well, if these players are key players to you, you know, you're not like Man City, you can bring on, you know, sort of like 80 million pound players off the bench and bring them in, like, you know, and it really does make a difference. So for me, you know, I'd say that Everton, you've got some good players. You've been playing some good football. I actually rate Rafa. I know there's a difficulty with you because obviously he used to be at Liverpool, but I remember he was at Middlesbrough. And to be fair to him, they came down to the Championship. He came down with with Newcastle. They came down to the Championship that season. He decided to stay with them in the Championship and just sort them out. And that season, they were brilliant. They were really good. He sorted them out. They were by far the best team in that season. They got promoted straight away. And Newcastle fans said, this is really great. But he left because he wasn't given the right tools to do what he had to do. So when he went to Everton, I thought, actually, tell you what, you know, I reckon that he's probably going to sort Everton out. because he's a very practical manager and he kind of knows what he wants. So for me, listen, you've had a bit of a blip at the moment now, but knowing Brentford the way we are, Norwich came down to us and they were delighted that they came to us with having not won a game, because all of a sudden, there we go, Norwich, you could have 3 points there. And same thing, we went up to Burnley, and I think Burnley had won a game. We went, here you go, Burnley, you can have 3 points as well. And then Newcastle as well, they almost got a win out of us last week as well, and I shouldn't be laughing about this, but that's so Brentford, but we managed to get a point. Brilliant game up at Newcastle. What a game, what a town, what a laugh that was. But, we could have beaten them, but they were looking all right, Newcastle. So you never know. It might take Brentford to turn your little run around, mate. But I'm hoping that we're going to get him back, because we've got a few players coming back. We've got a few players coming back from injury now, and hopefully they'll be able to steady the ship.
Yeah, it's weird how much of a comparison that is to us as well, injury ridden as well, and also we always think we're like the team where if you've lost a bit of form. The best team you could come up against for a lot of Everton fans is Everton if you're a team out of form, because we're just guaranteed to give you points. I remember Sheffield United last season and that Yebison scored on his debut. Obviously, you're quite complimentary about Rafa Benitez, and so was your manager in the midweek. I've seen Thomas Frank being quite supportive of him. Tell us a little bit more about Thomas Frank, though. What's he like as a manager?
Thomas Frank is a top bloke. For me, first of all, is about a person. He's a really good bloke. He's a really nice bloke. He's a friend of ours. I co-host the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast. So it's Beesotted Pride of West London, Pride of West London. You can check that out as well. We're doing a podcast tonight as well, which you're going to be on actually, which is all good. And when I first met him when he was actually assistant manager to Dean Smith, and I first met him, and I thought, oh, this guy's really quite intense, because I was chatting with Dean Smith about things and family and all that kind of stuff that Dean Smith talks about, because he's a really nice bloke as well. But Thomas was just like, his eyes was just like, it was like you could see that the tactics that he wanted to know about the team and the players, and he's really, really intense. I was thinking, oh blimey, and so they brought Thomas Frank in underneath Dean Smith to basically, for a couple of years, to learn about the UK, to learn about our leagues, to learn about the players, to learn our jokes and our customs and the fact we love going down the pub and all that kind of stuff. So they sort of embedded him into UK life for 2 years, knowing that Dean Smith was going to leave eventually, and then he could slot him in. So he's come in, and he was in only for a couple of weeks, and he's come up to us and he's going, I want to come on your Beesotted podcast. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah. And I said, you can only come down if you go down the pub, because we record all our podcasts down the pub. And he went, all right then. And so he's come down the pub, and he's turned up with 3 hours. We're sitting down the pub with Thomas Frank, sitting down there chatting. He was telling us everything, and we're like going, I don't think you should be telling us that. But you could see he's really quite frank, as they call it. He says it as it is. He talked about a player actually who he said, we were wondering why he wasn't going to play. He was actually scoring loads. He scored 45 goals in our B team. We're like, why isn't he playing the first team as striker? And he's going, no, he's not right for the first team. I think he needs to leave. And we're like, whoa, you say that on our podcast. And, he goes, don't worry, it's all sorted out. Within a few weeks, he actually left and went to Liverpool, we thought was really strange. So he actually played for Liverpool for a couple of seasons, but he's left Liverpool now and he's playing for some non-league side. So I think Thomas knew his onions at the time, but coming back to it, he's a really, really nice bloke. He's a really frank bloke. He loves football. He loves people. He really, really, really gets it. He's very lucky because he's working for Brentford, because Brentford's the type of club where they give you a chance. What they do is that they believe in you. They say, okay, you're this type of player. So what we'll do is that we'll give you as many tools as possible to make you the type of player that we believe you are. And we'll get you from here to there. So like I said, all the stats that we use to bring the players in, we think like this player is a rough diamond, not quite there, but we believe you're going to be there. Then they get the tools in to do that. And the same thing with the staff, like the managers. They say Thomas Frank has got all the right things to do. Yes, he'll make some mistakes. So when he first came in, he'd lost, I think, 9 games out of the first 10. Now, if he was at Aston Villa, or if he was at Sheffield Wednesday or any of the clubs, they would have sacked him. And I was doing loads of radio shows, and everyone's going, oh, you've just got your manager after Dean Smith. You should sack him. He's terrible. And I said, no, he's not. As far as the club is concerned, he's doing all the right things, but the results haven't gone right. But all the right things are happening with all the players in the right positions. They're doing the right things. It's just that, the ball isn't at the back of the net. It's going to happen. And then the next 20 games, I think he kind of lost 1 or 2 out of the next 20. So, he's very lucky to be in a situation where he's got a club that will always work together with him to try and improve him. And we always try and improve people. And I think because of that, you could say he's comfortable, but not only that, but he's also quite driven because he knows that he's got the backing. And I think that's really important, especially for clubs like us, because we can't go left and right and be sacking people and buying rubbish players and then losing money left, right, and centre, because we're only a tiny club. We've got 10,000, we had 4,000 fans like 6-7 years ago. We've got 10,000 season ticket holders. Our stadium only holds 15,000. That's cool for us. That's fine as far as we're concerned, but we need to be really tight and really practical about how we go about our business. And it's very important for us who we employ as players and managers and coaches. And we've got a no dickheads policy. It's called, if you just Google it, Brentford no dickheads policy, literally they say, look, we don't want any dickheads, because back in the day, we had people that maybe weren't kind of like batting on the right side, as in cricket, batting on the right side for us, as in we had a direction we wanted to go, but they wanted to do their own thing. And it's taken us about 10 years to try and get players and the staff and the coaches and everybody all kind of going in the same direction and going in the same way. And Thomas Frank really kind of epitomizes that whole thing. So as a person, he's a brilliant bloke and he's a great person to go out for a beer with or a glass of wine, as he says. As a manager, he's really quite principled, sometimes maybe a little bit stubborn, but he's learning from that as well. But as a tactician, I reckon if you put him into, I'm not being funny, if you put him into the England team, and I'll go and watch England, be the 15 tournaments with England, I love them. If you put him into the England team, he would take that team and he would take them to another level. I'm not saying that Gareth wouldn't, but he is, because he thinks out the box sometimes. And, when you think you should go defensive, he'll go, actually, no, I'll tell you what, let's go attacking here. Let's just go against the grain because this will do X, Y, and Z. And he does that. He's a very, very clever bloke. And if he makes a mistake, he'll just turn around and say, actually, we made a mistake there. But what we'll do is we learn from that and we move on. So I love Thomas. He's a top bloke. And he'll probably leave us now in January.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned, obviously, the stats side of it. Brentford, one of the reasons as a neutral I've quite enjoyed watching you and us, with your owner, is his journey of stats. He owned a company that based on stats. I think it was a betting company, wasn't it? And a lot of people are resembling your methods of transfers and managers to the film Moneyball. I just want to get your thoughts on that. I think I've watched both the film and watched how you play, selling Ollie Watkins and other big players on for profit. But I just wanted to get a Brentford fan's opinion on that and the comparisons.
Tell you, it's difficult as a football fan. The thing about football is very traditional. So a lot of football fans are very traditional, so they only want it one particular way. I talked about people not wanting to change within Brentford. There's a lot of people that are also traditional within the football framework. They don't want it to change. So when it was announced that, when Mark Warburton left and then we were going to be using stats to help us to develop our playing staff as well. The fact is, actually, we were doing it when Mark Warburton was there, but no one was really interested then. But it's only as soon as he left, because we had a bit of a bust up with him. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, the press got on our back big time after that and said, "Oh, Brentford are, they're using computers to sign players. Oh, they don't know what they're doing. Oh," and it was a bit annoying actually, because being Beesotted, like I said, we've got quite a very good relationship with the club. So we talk to the owner a lot. We talk to the directors of football. Again, if you check Pride of West London, if you just check out, Beesotted directors of football came down the pub everyone comes down the pub, but about 2 or 3, but just before the end of last season, they came down the pub, both the directors of football. We got 60 people down the pub outside, got beers in, and they sat down, they told us everything, did a 2 series, series about that. But I think the point I'm saying is that everyone's really close. So we talk to them a lot. And also we understand their business and what they turn around and say. They said, look, we're a small club. We can't afford to spend, 60 million on a player. When we're in the Championship, we can't afford to spend, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 pound a week on players like Sheffield Wednesday and Derby County were doing, who are now in financial trouble, as you can see. Even Aston Villa with ridiculous 80,000 pound a week on players, signing players for 15, 20, 25,000 million pounds. It's like we couldn't go there. We're signing them for 1.5 million. Ollie Watkins cost us 1.5 million, I think it was. Maupay cost us 1.5 million. I think it was. Ben Rama cost us around the same, 1.5. That's what you buy them for, using the system, the stat system we've got. And then what you do is that you get the coaching staff in to make them better. And then when they're better, they will either help to get you to another level, or if it's taking too long for that to happen, we have to sell them on because we haven't got the money to, we need the money to actually kind of help to fuel what we're doing. But the fact is that if we sell, as we sold, Chris Mepham for 14 million, then we use that money to go and buy another 4 players or 5 players. We sell Ben Rama for 18 million. We'll buy another 6 players with that. You know what I'm saying? So you're losing one great player, but the idea is that you can end up buying another 4 or 5 really good players who are better than what you've got. So that's why it's taken us quite a while to get to where we are, because every time it's like, it started off with 150,000. Then you sell them for 1.5 million, then you buy someone for 750,000. So it's kind of stepping up and stepping up. And I think they've made, in transfer money, over 100 million pounds in money that we've made as a club in buying, then selling these players. Now, as a fan, I don't want any of these players to leave, not at all. You love these players and they get really good. Ben Rama, I want him to stay to Brentford forever. Ollie Watkins, I want him to stay forever, and you want these players to leave. But when the club said, it was Andre Gray, first of all, we bought him for 500 grand. We were there for one season. We were in the Championship. Everyone was laughing at us. Andre Gray, they're going, Brentford going to get promoted. They've got this manager, Mark Warburton, who's never even managed anybody, never mind managed anyone in the Championship. They're leading with this striker called Andre Gray, who's just come from non-league Luton, and he's like their leading striker. And they just said they're going to get relegated immediately. We went to the playoffs first season, right? And Andre Gray scored 18 goals. And all of a sudden, at the end of that season, when we didn't go up, of course, everyone wants to buy Andre Gray. As Brentford fans, we're like, no, you can't sell him. No, you can't. This is wrong. And we were really upset. But the club said, don't worry, we get someone better. And we know you can't. No, it's not going to happen. Then the following season, I think we had Scott Hogan, and Scott Hogan came in and scored like 30 goals in 2 minutes or something. And then after that, Aston Villa came in and offered us 15 million for him or something like that. And if you bought him for 750,000, fans were like, no, you can't sell him. He's too good. And the club said, don't worry, we get someone better. And literally every year it was like, it was Lasse Vibe. Then after that, it was, I think, Neil Maupay. Then Neil Maupay came, don't sell it. And then it was Ollie Watkins. Oh, no. Then it's Ivan Toney. So, but by that stage, the club, the fans have gone, actually, okay, we get it now. So when the club says, look, we're selling them on, they're like, okay, we trust the process. But it's taken us quite a long time, like about 5 years or 6 years to get the pro. I mean, as Beesotted, we learned earlier because we talked to the staff, the member of staff and the coaches and that, and they've already primed us up, about how it works. But I think with a lot of fans, it's become quite difficult. But now we're getting behind it a lot more. But it's still quite difficult because you really would like your players to stay a little bit longer. And to be fair, Ben Rama stayed one season longer than he should have done. Ollie Watkins stayed a season longer than he should have done, because when it came to the team being really good, the club said, okay, yeah, we normally sell, but this season we think we've got a really good chance of going up. So we want you guys to stay. So we're not going to sell you. So they didn't sell anyone that season, and they kept the core of the team. And that's the reason why that team that we lost to the F word, I can't even mention them, in the playoff final, we should have gone up really. We had a brilliant side, the BMW, Ben Rama, Watkins and Mbumo, scoring 55 goals between them, never mind Josh De Silva scoring 12 or 14 goals. Honestly, we were on fire that season, but our defence was probably not quite as good as it could have been. They were still good. They were like the second best, but we just kept losing these games 1-0. So the following season, we worked out how to stop losing those games 1-0 by becoming a little bit defensively tighter and probably not so flairish up front. And that got us up, and that's where we are now. So the Moneyball thing is if you speak to the owner and mention Moneyball, he hates that phrase because he thinks it's quite lazy. But obviously the film has made people understand what it's all about. But it's more about him using his knowledge and his people. He's got an office full of just people who, what they do is they just watch football all around the world, and using that information to basically, I think the best thing to do is to use it as a kind of just getting rid of the fraff, getting rid of the not so good stuff. So, you can go around in your car and you can go and watch maybe one game every day if you wanted to in your car. But what they do is that they use their information to get rid of the stuff that you don't want to see. And then you can go to somebody, right, now you can go in your car, and instead of going around and trying to watch 100 games, watch only these 5 games or these 6 games, because these are the 6 people who we think are going to be the business. And then you come back to us and you tell us exactly what you think is the right thing. So I think that explains it a little bit more, because everyone thinks it's all about computers and there's no human element. There's a massive human element involved, but all it does is it just gets rid of the fraff so that you can actually pick up the really decent stuff, and a lot of decent stuff that you may not have picked up by actually just driving in your car to go and see a game. Because sometimes you might drive in your car to go and see a game and you might miss that player playing half decent in that one game because he might have had a terrible game. So what you're going to do, you're going to come back the following week, keeping your fingers crossed that he's going to have a good game. No, like I said to you, it picks up on this, and you can see that information. So it's worked for us as a team, and I can't knock it, because if we didn't have that system, we would never be in the Premier League. We probably wouldn't even be in the Championship, to be quite honest with you, because that's what Brentford is. And I know a lot of other people are doing it, but I think the difference is we own the data, and it's not the data which is important. It's how you use the data, how you use the information. So we'll use our information differently to how, other teams will do it. Liverpool are very good at doing it. Leicester are very good at doing it, and everyone uses it differently. But, other teams, they're not very good at doing it because they either haven't employed the right people, or they're still learning in the process. And it's always an ever evolving process. So it starts here, but it's evolving, and it keeps on evolving more. And as time goes on, if you're not evolving, if you don't evolve with it, then you might as well bin it. And I think it's something that you have to invest in. You have to. It's part of the DNA of a lot of clubs, and you've got to put a lot of time and money and effort and understand and work with it. And we're very lucky that Brentford do that. And yes, we might. Of course, we're going to sign Duff players, because everyone does. We will do at some stage. We know that as well. But it's come good for us so far, and hopefully you'll see some of them on Sunday afternoon.
Hopefully not too. Hopefully they don't play too well. Obviously, we mentioned players that you've signed. You've mentioned, Duff players. I want to know the best and worst players to play for Brentford this season so far. Who are your best, highest rated, and lowest rated players?
Whoa. It's really good, because you don't want to, if you've got a lowest rated player, then you're going to you don't want to disrespect your players, what I'm saying. So I'm going to have to sort of kind of fluff that up in a way to sort of to do like a teacher might do, to say, could do better, but what I'll say, obviously everyone knows about Ivan Toney now. I was really interested, because when I came in the Premier League, I thought that everyone knew about Ivan Toney, because Ivan Toney, everyone in the Championship knew about him. But I was so surprised that, when people had no idea about Ivan Toney at all and what he was about. He is the archetypal centre forward. He really is. He is the guy up front who literally puts a ball in the back of the net. He's strong. He's good in the air. He's got a great sense of where all his other players are. But the other thing about him that's really great is that he is all over the place. So he plays on the wing, he plays deeper, he feeds players in. On Saturday against Newcastle, he actually saved the ball off the line, which Newcastle would have got another goal. We're like, that's Ivan Toney on our own goal line. He really is a brilliant player. He hasn't scored as many goals as he should have done last season. A lot of people are arguing the reason why is because he's all over the place. And maybe if he just kept himself in the box, then he got something to aim to. But the flip side of it is that he's obviously not he's selfish in a way as a striker, but also he's not selfish because he realizes that the work that he does benefits the other players. So he knows that, okay, everyone's going to try and mark him. So if he pulls himself back and he's just flicking the balls on for Mbeumo to get the ball, to put the ball in the back of the net, if Mbeumo scores, everyone benefits from it. So, against Arsenal, he didn't score when he played them, but he literally was winning every ball against Ben White. £50 million Ben White, and he was getting battered by Ivan Toney, So just things like that. He's a great player. We had a bit of a conversation with some Newcastle fans. I went to San Marino last week, and I was sitting down chatting with some Newcastle fans, and out the blue they're saying Ivan Toney, he should be playing for England. I was like, whoa, do you think? I said, I don't want him to play for England yet, because I want him to start scoring goals for Brentford. But they're like going, I think that he's better than X, Y, and Z. And they named a few names, which I won't name now. And I've went, well, it's interesting. You must have seen him play. They said, look, he will batter some players out there. And, we're playing San Marino. So they were like going, what's the point of playing Harry Kane against San Marino? Surely you should be getting sort of these young players who you're hoping are going to maybe playing in England in a year or 2 or 3's time, and give them the chance of giving them that opportunity. And I thought that was a really quite forward-thinking way of going about things, because obviously San Marino are San Marino, and maybe that is the opportunity to get them in, to get new players in board. So, I'm flying the flag for Ivan Toney, because even though he hasn't scored a hatful of goals, trust me, in the right setup, I'm not saying we're not the right setup, in the right scenario, Ivan Toney will definitely get you goals. He's a very, very good player. All the Liverpool fans, when we played them, we drew 3-3 with them afterwards. I mean, they had no idea who he was before the game, but after the game, the same guys I was chatting to, the guys like that, Ivan Toney, we'll take him off you at the end of the season. Quite cheekily, we said, "Oh, no, you won't. Well, if you've got a lot of money, then maybe you can do, but it's all right." So Ivan Toney's a great player. Aya as well, who you won't see, so I won't talk about him loads, but he's also the central defender we signed from Celtic, 13.5 million. He's a Rolls-Royce defender, and he has been brilliant for us at the back. But unfortunately, he's not going to play on Saturday because he is injured as well. But what I'll do there, I'll flip over to Ethan Pinnock, who is another centre-back who we got, who, I mean, I also watched Brentford play against a team called Dulwich Hamlet down here, who are a non-league side. They're in the Conference South now, but when I went to see them play, they were actually in the Isthmian Premier League. And Ethan was playing for Dulwich Hamlet. I saw him play when Dulwich Hamlet lost yet another playoff final, just like Brentford. They were so Brentford-esque, like Brentford losing all these playoff finals, so did Dulwich. And he lost against East Thurrock, and they got back 3-0 down by half time, and the ball came across the area 3 times back in the back of the net. And I don't know if Ethan himself was at blame for that, but it was quite bad. They got absolutely battered by East Thurrock, and that was his final game for Dulwich Hamlet before moving to Forest Green Rovers. And then he moved from Forest Green to Barnsley, I think it was, and from Barnsley to us. So within about 4 or 5 seasons, he's gone from Conference South, from Isthmian League to the Premier League. It's like mad. And his growth as a player has been phenomenal. If you watch him, he is so calm on the ball. He's so clever. He's so dominant. He's a great defender. I think he might be carrying a bit of an injury, like most of our players at the moment now. So he's not been quite on it himself, but if you play him, you just watch him. He's a great player, Ethan Pinnock, and I like him a lot. So I've given you 2 players there as well, and just shout going out to Brian Mbumo. I said to people who was doing fantasy league, if you want a cheap player, put Brian Mbumo in your side. He's a brilliant player who's great in the BMW season. Didn't have a great season last season because he's just come off the back of COVID, but he's one of them players who is, I think he's phenomenal. He's fast, he's really clever. He hasn't scored as many goals as he should have scored because he's hit the post about 7 times this season. Though good work. He's been so unlucky, but trust me, he's going to score goals this season. Brian Mbumo.
Nice. Obviously, you mentioned a couple of the players are injured. What do you think is probably going to be your likely lineup then?
I think the lineup will be quite similar to what it was been the last few games. The lineup will be similar to Newcastle. It'll be similar to the Norwich game. We got our goalkeeper Fernandez, who is the new goalkeeper. You got, obviously he's going to be in goal, and you're going to have Pinnock and Pontus Jansson at the back, and then the third player at the back is the big question mark. We're not quite sure who's going to be the third player at the back. We'll have to see who that is because we normally go sort of 3 at the back, 3/5 at the back. The wing backs normally are Sergi Canos on the right, who is actually a left winger, ironically, but our left wing is having to play right wing back as well. And then we've got Rico Henry, he was the best left back in the Championship as well. He's playing at left. He's actually scored in our last 2 games as well, so we're actually getting him further up the pitch, causing problems, which is all good. We got Christian Norgard, who played against England in the European Championship semi-final for Denmark. He's a great player, so he'll be in the midfield there as well. Who will he be within the midfield? There could be Frank the Tank Onyeka, who's one of our signings we got from Denmark as well. Who's a bit of a whirlwind of a player. You know what I'm saying? He's one of my favourite players, actually, Frank the Tank as well. And if he's on the ball, he's a good player. But then you might have Godos, but Godos didn't have a great game up at Newcastle, so I can imagine that Godos might not play. And then we've got Jensen, who also played against England in the European Championship semi-final as well, who's a player who we have a bit of an in-joke at Beesotted. We say, who's going to play today? Is it good Jensen or bad Jensen? So you never know who's going to play against you. So maybe there might be no Jensen at all, but hopefully if there is Jensen, it's going to be good Jensen and not bad Jensen. And obviously we've got Mbumo and we've got Brian Brian Mbumo and Ivan Toney, who's going to be leading the attack, as they say. So I think that's roughly, who we're going to get. There's a few players that might come in and out as well, out of that team as well. But I think pretty much that's what we're talking about. We got Charlie Good, who may or may not come in. We've got Zanka, who's one of our defenders, but all our players keep going off injured. So we've got no idea who's going to be coming in and out. But you've got a rough idea as who's going to be sort of kind of the key players who's going to be starting against Everton on Sunday.
And out of that lineup, who is the one that we should really watch out for? Who's the one that's going to cause us the most problems?
Tony's going to cause you problems, without a shadow of a doubt. He's going to cause you problems because, I'm not saying it, but he's probably going to be really quiet now, but he's either going to be, in your face, or he's going to be doing something not in your face. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and players just, they don't know what to do with him. Do we mark him? Do we double mark him? Do we lay off him? Why is he back there? What's he doing? Oh no, he's just passed the ball over to him. Like, he's brilliant. He is. But also I think Brian Mbeumo, if Brian Mbeumo is on fire, right? He's going to be. I think he's going to be a great player, and also Sergi Canos, who's our right wing back as well, because he's all over the place. Sergi, he's brilliant. So he's a right wing back, but he's just all over the place, and because he's a natural winger as well, he's got that natural attacking element to him, to his game as well. So it kind of, when you've got him, Brian Mbeumo and Rico Henry kind of doing their thing, like, all over the place, you're thinking, Christ almighty, what's going on here? But I'm not saying that's going to happen, definitely. We potentially got those players. And obviously when we had our tails up at the beginning of the season and we were really confident, it was really good. But obviously we've got to compensate that now, the fact that our defence isn't doing as great as it was before. So that has a knock-on effect on the team. So whether or not they'll be playing in that same way, I don't know. But saying that, even though we lost to Norwich, the second half of Norwich, we battered Norwich. We battered the door down. We just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, and the players were they were all over the place doing their thing. Against Burnley, fair play to Burnley. Burnley were actually very good when we played them, and we weren't at the races for that one as well. And against Newcastle, attacking wise, we were also very good. We took our chances against defensively. Both teams were all over the place for that game, but we were. So I'd say, attacking wise, Brentford can be a very good side. It's just going to be interestingly defensively to see how we cope with Everton's. You've got some very good attackers in your side, and it's going to cause us problems. There's no two ways about it.
Well, coincidentally, that was the next question. Obviously, a couple of our big names are out, but which Everton player do you think is going to cause the most issues for you?
Well, I mean, it's sorry. So you're saying. I was thinking for me, what I would be really nervous about is, the thing is that a lot of people are trying to sort of kind of, okay, let me just come back to this first of all. There's a player that played in the Championship, right, who at the time, there was a bit of a hype between him and Neil Maupay. I'm pretty sure, it was Neil Maupay at the time. We were about to sell Neil Maupay, and this player was playing in the Championship, and when we were playing them, and there was almost like a bigger hype around him than there was around Neil Maupay, and we couldn't understand it because Maupay was knocking in goals for fun. Okay, he's missing a lot of goals, but he's knocking them in for fun. But we knew what type of player he was, and then we played against this play. We played with this team, and to be fair, I thought he was fairly average, right? When he played, but then he got a big deal, and he went off to Germany, and I'm pretty sure he went off to Germany, and Maupay got his deal, and he went off to Brighton, and then all of a sudden, but now I think he's come back to you, and it's Demarai Gray. Okay,
yes.
So yes. So Demarai Gray. Okay, we know him from when he played for Birmingham City. Okay, and he was young, very young at the time, and he was massively highly rated. But I was sort of thinking, okay, so, but he's all right, but I'm not sure if he kind of goes with the hype. Because obviously he went off, and he went off and he got transferred, and he went off to Leicester. Sorry, it wasn't, but he went to Leicester City because he went to Bayer Leverkusen after that. But he went off to Leicester City, and he just didn't do it at Leicester City, and it kind of reinforced what we thought, where we thought there's a bit more hype over him than actually there was. But now he's at Everton. I'm not sure kind of how he's faring there. With you, but the Calvert-Lewin is the player that I was going to say is the one who kind of obviously gives me a little bit of fear. A lot of people say he's the archetypal centre forward as well. So if you want to sort of do an Ivan Toney, Calvert-Lewin type sort of kind of comparison, but he's the type of player which, I kind of a little bit nervous about, because if he was playing against us 6 weeks ago, I would like, cool, we'll be able to handle that, put the balls in the box, defenders knocking the ball out. But since our defence is a little bit shaky compared to what it was before, the Calvert-Lewin gets me a little bit nervous, it has to say. So, he makes me nervous as well. I think you also got a nice little steal picking up the Andros Townsend as well, who he seems like a really, I never met him, but he seems like a really nice bloke. And he's a player obviously wanted to kind of get his career back on the path. So I think that's a bit of a steal you sort of kind of picking him up as well, and him doing what he's doing, because I think potentially he could be a dangerous player.
Well, I think you might be in luck. I think since like last week, DCL, I think, still reportedly out for another 2 weeks. And then since then, we've lost Richarlison through his booking in the last game. And Damari Gray this week, the news broke that he might be out for, I think it's 5 weeks. They reckon it could be. So, I mean, I couldn't tell you the lineup I think we're going to put out. It'll be Solomon Rondon and whoever we can find to fill the bodies in behind him. But yeah, now that I've told you the good news that we're missing a couple of our stars, let me know your score prediction.
Oh, see, you caught me because I've not done the podcast this week. Besides, like I said to you, Pride of West London. I might even take a bit of a chill pill this week because I've had a bit of a mad week. I've only come back from Newcastle like yesterday. I decided to stay in Newcastle for crying. I just love the place so much. I just went out there with the whole family and just stayed there forever. Did loads of castles, did loads of stuff, did loads of breweries, did everything and I've come back. So I think I need to sort of unpickle myself. So I might not do our podcast this week, but you can still check it. Pride of West London. So you've actually caught me with the first prediction for this match, which means I've not actually thought about it. But what I want to say is that we have lost 4 games in a row, and then we drew to Newcastle. We keep on letting in goals. With our goalkeeper, we don't seem to be able to keep a clean sheet, but we seem to have really exciting matches. So I'm going to say that there's going to be definitely goals in this game. Everton are definitely going to score, but I would like to think that we're going to we got to get a win back under our belt. So I'm going to go for a 3-2 Brentford win. Actually, big game, 3-2 Brentford win. And we're going to score a last-minute winner, because I've not seen a last-minute winner for a while, actually. So that one's going to keep everyone on the edge of their feet. So, which is all good. So that's my prediction. But I've got to do that because I'm a Brentford fan, and you've got to keep things all exciting and all that kind of stuff. So yes. But anyway, but look, what I'll say to you is that like I said, to you Everton fans, come down, just check out Beesotted.com, because we'll have a pub guide for you to check out and we do a match preview on the Friday, which we talk about Everton loads. And then there's a big pub guide in that. You check that out. There's about 25 pubs to go to all over the place. There's a pub called the Globe, which we drink in, which is a wicked pub. There's no colour. There's no bouncers. You wear colours. You could do what you want to, as long as you've got manners, as you say. Come down, have a drink, talk football, go after the game, come back afterwards and, drink more. And then you go home. So like I said to you, you have a really good time. There's pubs in Kew. There's pubs over the bridge in Kew. There's pubs on the river. There's pubs everywhere. Brentford's actually a really good place. Most people have never heard of it, but when they go there, they will definitely have heard of it. So come down, have yourself a good time, and listen, enjoy the game. I'm not going to say don't enjoy the game too much, because that's obviously a too obvious thing to say.
No worries. And our last question is a little bit of a fun one. It's non-football related. It's, what is your go-to meal deal? Sandwich, snack, and drink.
What I normally go for is a bit of the old was it hoisin duck, is it something like that? So hoisin duck wrap. I normally go for a hoisin duck wrap. I normally go for a bit of a Tropicana, a bit of an orange juice as well, and then the snack, I'll go a bit fruity. I'll go for a bit of grapes, even if I want to have a little bit of a nibble, I'll go for a bit of a packet of crisps, like, I'm saying. But normally I go for the grapes for the snack. Nice
choice. Nice, very nice. Well, that is everything we've had time for today. Firstly, Billy, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
That's right. Listen, thanks very much for having me. Like I said to you, and everyone that's coming down, enjoy yourself. A safe journey down to Brentford on Sunday.
That's brilliant. And don't forget, guys, you can like the video, subscribe, comment down below on your thoughts on the Brentford-Everton game. Let us know your score predictions. And don't forget to go check out Billy and Beesotted. The links will be to all of your stuff in the description down below for everybody to go and check out. And thank you very much for watching.